We grew up glued to our TV screens hearing the blasting sounds of Go Go Power Rangers Go and Long Live the Power. But little did we know that our seemingly immortal heroes are not as infallible as they seemed to us when we were little. It breaks our hearts to bring the news of the death of David Frank, the Green Ranger, who died earlier this week at the mere age of 49. Let's look at what happened. For starters, is Jason David Frank really gone? When we were little, we always looked up to these iconic characters on TV. They seemed otherworldly, untouchable by the petty concerns of the average human. Mortality seemed to be a cause of concern for us, but for them, there were bigger problems to be dealt with. These heroes were more concerned with fighting evil and saving the day, time and again. And if one of them were to fall, it would be an honorable death. But growing up is all about realizing that these heroes we glorified oh so much during the innocence of our youth are not very different from us. As sad as this epiphany is, the recent loss of one of our childhood icons does nothing but solidify the death of our childhood. We don't know the exact time or date of the event. All we know is that our beloved Tommy Oliver is no more. There's speculation that he died on the 19th of November in Texas State. And the most shocking thing is that he wasn't even that old. Looking at his recent photos, we can safely say that he aged like fine wine. And even at 49, he looked like an absolute stud. The details may be blurry, but it's safe to say hearing the news broke our hearts, more than just a little.
1, 2, 3. Go, go, Power Rangers!
Let's look at the cause of his death. When something like this happens, we're all left with one big question. How can someone who appeared so perfect just suddenly leave us like this? But here's what we learned about life so far. Appearances can be deceptive, and we shouldn't let them trick us into believing that everything is fine, because sometimes it's really not. And that's what's happened with our dear old Frankie. Rumor has it that the cause of his demise is none but his own inner demons. Yes, folks, apparently Jason committed suicide. Phew, that's heavy news to bear, and we don't like to be the bearers of bad news, but sometimes we have no choice. It's heartbreaking to admit that the man who spent so many years fighting fictional monsters couldn't fight the monsters in his head. But hey, all we can do is wonder where all of us as a society went wrong in giving him the support he needed. To be fair, his life was never really perfect. He had 2 broken marriages and 3 children, with whom he shared a tumultuous relationship. We can only speculate what was the final nail in the coffin, but we're guessing it had something to do with his divorce from his second wife. The pair recently broke it off earlier this year. No wonder our childhood hero felt so alone in his battles.
True hero, Tommy. Thanks, guys. You know, there was a moment back there when I almost gave up. But then I realized, it's not just the cosmic power that gives me strength, but it's who and what I am inside.
Coming up, how did his co-stars react? Well, how do you guys suppose one reacts to news such as this? But given that in the later part of his life, all Frankie wanted was a little bit of privacy, his loved ones have chosen to not let the details of the matter get too public. Walter Jones, who played Black Ranger in the series, was perhaps the only one so far to have made a public comment on his Insta feed. He expressed his deepest condolences and let the world know how gutted he was after having heard the news. He likened this incident to the passing of the Yellow Ranger, who died back in 2001 in a car accident. For Jones, this was akin to having lost another very important member of the family. It's sad to see our heroes fall, but imagine seeing your family members fall one by one. Meanwhile, Frank's manager, Justice Hunt, requested that everyone treat the matter with respect and give his friends and family the privacy to grieve. We think that's a fair demand to have, and we'd like to honor these wishes as much as we can.
I know all of you are so sad. I'm thinking about all of you guys. I don't know, sending you all love.
Let's look at the road so far. One clear-cut way to honor our beloved Tommy Oliver is to talk about all the beautiful memories that he brought for us and the service he did for society, both on and off screen. Jason David Frank first graced our screens and our hearts back in the early 90s when he starred as Green Ranger in the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger TV series. From there onwards, he captured not only our love, but enough attention for that series to be extended into 4 other series, which included Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers, Power Rangers Zeo, Power Rangers Turbo, and Power Rangers Dino Thunder. Be it his famous line, "If you're like me, you can't be evil," or be it his transition into being the first evil ranger who almost destroyed the rest while being under the spell of Repulsa. We never quite stopped loving him. He was not only a superhero on screen, but Frankie was also an MMA champion and expert, and we could see that in the way he did all his stunts flawlessly when in character. Losing him was genuinely a heavy loss to bear. Moving forward, what are the rest of them up to? too. Not all of our childhood idols met the same macabre fate, and it's only fair to speak of where each of them landed eventually in their lives. But if we're going to recap the journey of our Rangers, we need to include the Yellow Ranger too. Sadly for us, her fate was just as sad as that of Jason. In fact, she died at the very young age of 27, at the very start of her career. Yikes! Thuy Trang had a promising career ahead of her. She was young, talented, and beautiful. She had recently starred in a film called Spy Hard, and she was all set for more offers in the future. Unfortunately, fate had other plans, but the same can't be said for the rest of them. Next up, where did the Red Ranger go? This one is interesting because it has a lot of very interesting twists and turns. Austin St. John went on to become a real-life hero and served as a paramedic in the military for 4 years. Phew, thanks for your contribution, sir. Upon his return to the States, he worked on some major projects, which included Monsters at Large and A Walk with Grace. But things took an interesting turn when he was arrested in 2022 for defrauding the government on a COVID-19 business relief program. Wait, what? What happened here? We're just as lost as you guys are. But then again, who knows what was going on inside the life of our beloved Red Ranger? Let's look at what fate had in store for Pink and Black. Hey, not all our Rangers ended up in tragic and extreme situations. We promise. Some of them actually did manage to stay in showbiz and lead relatively normal lives. You don't believe us? Let's look at the lives of Black and Pink Rangers to prove it to you all. As far as our Black Ranger Walter is concerned, the man seems to fare fairly well. He's done quite a lot of voice acting for various animations and video games. He also managed to bag some major roles in hit shows like Buffy, The Vampire Slayer, CSI, and Family Matters. As of now, he's leading a relatively stable life with his family, but was deeply saddened to hear about the passing of his friend. In the same light, Amy Jones, aka Miss Pink Ranger, is as beautiful and as successful as ever. This woman refuses to age, but looks are the only thing she has. She's not only an actress, but also a screenwriter, a director, and a singer. Yikes! Go get it, girl. Some of her major projects include Flashpoint, her own directed film The Space Between, and her 2013 album Never Broken. Looks like Miss Pink has become what they call a jack of all trades, and we couldn't be more impressed. Lastly, let's not forget Blue Ranger. We know you're probably wondering why we've talked about literally everyone except him. Don't worry, we didn't forget. He may be the last, but in no books was he the least favorite. In fact, if we were to confess, we'd say he was probably our favorite. And no, we're not overcompensating. The reason why we've stayed hush about him so far is that he's been very hush-hush since his last production venture. He did produce a few films back in the 90s, but since then, he's mostly led a quiet life with his family. And hey, we don't really blame him. After having the taste of stardom that he did in his youth, it's only fair that he gets to be a little low-key in recent years. Wherever he is, we hope he's happy. And on that note, it's a wrap for today. How are you all planning to cope with this tragic news? Share tips in the comments below. If you like this video, subscribe to our channel for more like these. See you next time.